downtown Beirut for an unexpected episode of the Beirut Banyan. And we're joined today by family and friends. This is an improvised episode. I've been attending the protests in Martyrs Square for the past 3 days, since Thursday night when events started taking shape. And the last 2 days I've been roaming the streets of Martyrs Square, nearby Riyadh Salah, in and out of downtown Beirut, watching the city change for the better, unfortunately at times for the worse. There was sporadic violence 2 nights ago. At the same time, it's very important to stress, there were also genuine celebrations, there were joyous moments, and for the most part, these protests have been peaceful and very, very enticing, seductive, the type of protests that you think back to attempts in our history that we tried desperately. We didn't achieve the goals we set out for in March 14 or the You Stink movement, but this time around, things for the moment, they feel different. And that feeling, that instinctual feeling, whatever it is, I wanted to unpack it. I ran into my aunt yesterday. We went to my father's tomb in Martyrs Square. We laid a flag on top of the tomb. We also put flowers, and we took time to reflect on that loss and what it means, especially right now with events happening. I also ran into friends, and I ran into my brother just a few hours ago on the streets and persuaded all of them to join in on a conversation about what's happening. The first part takes place in the early afternoon. It's with my aunt, Huda Yashruti Shatah, and her friends join in, and they express their views of a generational shift that's happening and whether or not Lebanon is stuck with all that it has inherited from decades ago, Ottoman governments, French rule, independence, all of that. So we get their perspective. We get also a second episode afterwards, which takes place in the early evening. And that's where we're joined by my brother, Omar Shatah, his girlfriend, Ghana Muhsin, and a good friend of mine, Kamel Taha. He's featured in both episodes. He was with me the whole day. And we were in Martyrs Square both yesterday and today. So you'll hear a multitude of voices. They'll introduce themselves quickly, and we'll jump right into the conversation. So apologies for the rough edit here. Both episodes were recorded at a cafe that got a little crowded. You will hear, unfortunately, a lot of background noise, and at times my voice in particular is a bit muffled, but hopefully the conversation comes out well enough to enjoy. I wanted to be sure that this is released while things are developing and before the Prime Minister makes his statement tomorrow afternoon. I'm Rani Shatah, and this is the Beirut Banyan. So this location is important. We're literally meters away from history being made in Martyrs Square in Beirut. This isn't the first time we've seen this happen, but this is the first time I try to document what's happening with friends and family of different generations. And if you could just briefly introduce yourselves, who you are, what you do, and how you relate to Beirut.
My name is Kamel Taha. I completed my education in Lebanon at AUB, and also I did a master's in business in London. And for 8 years I worked in management consulting, serving GCC countries. But for the last 2 years I've been working on a Lebanese business, a retail business that aims to serve Lebanon and serve the Lebanese market.
Iman Dao, I'm a mother. I'm an ex-MEA employee. I worked for 17 years in Middle East Airlines. Now I'm a housewife. I lived all my life in Beirut, in Lebanon. I did never leave Lebanon during the war, during everything. And I'm always enthusiastic about the freedom and the rights for the people. And we want to see our country really developed, really living in peace. We missed it too many times. I hope this time we will have something.
Nelly Vitar. I am a housewife too, a mother of 3 who's struggling to keep my family happy in all circumstances that's surrounding us, and it has been really difficult during all these years, and hope we reach somewhere that we make a future not only for the kids, for the grandkids too.
I'm Huda Shatah. I graduated with political science degree from AUB, 1979. Went to the US for 13 years. I was away from Lebanon 25. Came back. I'm a mother of 3. And I feel so sad that my children are away and they cannot be living here to have a decent life.
I'm the least important person in the conversation. And what I should be doing today is not this. I should actually be in downtown Beirut speaking about Beirut's story. So on Sundays I give the Walk Beirut tour. Obviously it's not happening today. I think for the right reasons. But in this little snippet, there's a sense of both a bit of hope and a lot of despair at the same time. And I want to unpack this today. You guys come from different backgrounds completely. I mean, I don't think you would meet on other occasions naturally. And we have a bit of a variation in age as well. Can you just reflect a bit on this protest that really happened spontaneously, even though it was building up, but it did really happen overnight, Thursday night, with other protests you've seen before? I'm not talking about just March 14 or the garbage you stink stuff. I'm talking about all the other protests you've seen in your lives. Does this one feel different, or in your opinion, is it set up for another maybe cosmetic change that would eventually lead to something worse down the road? How do you put this one in perspective?
You're asking me.
Whoever wants to pick.
I think this time it is different because you
Why do
have
you say
people
that?
from all over the parts of Lebanon. They are demonstrating. They are refusing to be following a leader or somebody. They believe in Lebanon. They are holding the Lebanese flag. We wish, and in every area, in every village in Lebanon, there is demonstrations. So I hope that these demonstrators, they will get what they are dreaming of or aiming, to have a little bit freedom, their voice to be heard, and these politicians who are ruling this country to step away. I don't think they will step away, but this time I think the spirit is different.
Well, sorry, I'll interrupt just for a moment. What exactly feels different? Because I think we have said the same, on a private and public way, we've said the same thing over and over.
Everybody is fearing this time to hold the flag of their party, to come stand in front of everybody and tell you, I belong to this person, I belong to this leader. They are a little bit scared, and this is a good beginning for the Lebanese.
I don't see it as scared. I'm comparing what's happening nowadays with when the Civil War started, 1975.
Yeah, let's take us back.
I don't want to talk about March 14, 2005. I mean, this is something different. I'm comparing what's happening now with what happened when the Civil War started, 1975. I had just entered AUB. And when the Civil War started, people were going to their small parties, to their small villages, like, for example, the Kata'ib, the Al-Murabitun, all these political groups.
And you were a student those days.
I was student at AUB. So that what escalated the Civil War. So each one got scared from the other. They wanted to protect themselves, and they said, let's go to our group. What happened now with this, what's happening, the revolution 2019 is completely the opposite. You could see it in the south, you could see it in the Matan, in Kasserwain, in the north. You could see it in places like Tripoli. What I saw happened in Sur, I couldn't believe it. People were revolting against Berri, against their situation, against what's happening. The same in Tripoli. Everybody was reunited. What happened here in Beirut? everybody was fighting because they wanted to live as Lebanese.
Okay, so now we've got some agreement here that it just feels different, but I'd like to maybe get to the bottom of that. So what looks different, obviously, is that there are protests happening in places we don't usually expect.
Yes. Like Nabatea.
Yeah, South Lebanon. You don't
Yeah.
see this stuff happening that much.
Yeah.
Can you just quickly just introduce yourselves?
So my name is Nadine and I'm a fashion designer and I've been living in Lebanon since 2001. I've had my own business for 10 years now in Lebanon.
I'm Lina Mnaimni. I've been living in Beirut since 2001 and I'm a mother. I don't work.
I think that's the hardest profession here.
Yes.
So, you, on the contrary, you do work. So we were quickly getting into what feels different about this as opposed to many, many other protests. And we heard two voices already saying more or less the same thing, that it is different. And I'm just probing it deeper. What is exactly different about this compared to the hundreds of protests we've seen going decades now, even during the war itself?
Maybe he wants to
So go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know, like I can't rationalize it for you, Ronnie, why it feels different. I go very. I've only been to one demonstration in Lebanon in 2005, and that was it. The reason
How old were you in 2005?
I was 18. Okay, 18. Now I'm 32, and I don't know. For me, why I decided to join this time, it was more emotions taking over the mind. If you ask me on Thursday night, Friday morning, where all entrances of Beirut were burning, and I was seeing riots on the street, I didn't want to join. But then, I don't know why, starting Friday noon, when I saw that all of my friends were on the streets, I was looking at the news and I was seeing people who look like me, who I identify with, not just, I don't know, it's not about dressing the same or going to the same school or anything, it's just, I think those were people who have the same image of Lebanon as the one I have. Also yesterday we were discussing how everyone was in sync yesterday, they were feeling the same, everyone was nice, everyone was civilized. That's why I feel it's the same. Someone mentioned also you don't see flags of the political parties, it's just Lebanese flags.
Huda pointed to one specific example, which is protests in areas that are not
that
usual.
usually
Yes.
they don't.
Yeah. That's
South Lebanon,
The first
Tripoli,
time.
what happened the way in Tripoli, South North, to be able for people in Tyre and in Nabatea to go against Nabih Berri, to me that was a big step to be able
Yes.
to go to that area and say, we want you out. I mean, this
is
to
really
me
a big-
was a big point to show you that the people are not revolting like 1975 when I said, when I was an AUB student, at that time, if you were a Christian and you were living in a Muslim area, you just left that area and moved to Juni or to another place where you feel you're surrounded with your own people.
So I'll interrupt and maybe get your voices if you want. Do you think this is more than just an economic anger and a temporary revolt because of the financial situation in this country? Do you see it as more than that? Because we know that that was the pressing issue that I think triggered it. It may not be what people are protesting right now, but do you see it detached from the economic problem in this country? Do you see it as something larger that would take us somewhere different down the road? Maybe you could share your thoughts.
I think people now are linking their situation, their personal situation, to the whole system, which was not the case before. They used to think that it was their own fault in a way, and seeking, like as a solution to leave the country. And now they're linking, their own ordeal to an actual system that have been running for 50 years. So this is why they're able to voice their opinion, and they're not afraid anymore because now they can probably see clearly.
So you see it as just a culmination of many other protests leading to this? Like this is a natural evolution from the You Stink stuff, from March 14, from all the stuff before it? You see that as a
No,
build-up?
I don't see it as an evolution because when we had the protest in 2015 related to the trash crisis, was not felt the same way in other areas of the countries. In the south or in other areas, they're already used to sorting their trash. There's some recycling initiative. And in 2015 it was more like a Beirut issue. But for me, what's happening now is really pure, the economical, pressure on the people with the gas, with the bread, with really pure financial issues and the weight of the unemployment rate and the youth.
So the financial burden everyone is going through now is the common theme about what's happening.
Yes,
Okay, so
and the taxes. And
yeah. So it does go back to a sense that this is an economic protest. Okay, what about you? What do you think?
I think that people now are they are starving. Really, they are starving, and all our children are outside Lebanon. I mean, this country, how is it going to continue? If the rich is coming more rich and the poor more poor, and there's nothing for us. The water we are drinking, the electricity we are paying. I mean, there's nothing. If you go to poor countries, they have electricity and they have water. We don't have water. The garbage, this is a big problem. I mean, the problem is that people are going outside. They are getting they are graduating, and they are not finding jobs. This is a big problem. As if,
I want to play devil's advocate with you just for a moment.
yeah.
We've had that problem for now generations.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, it's not only the poor people who are doing this revolution. Even the people who are really relaxed, they can.
I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
they have. They are living nicely. They are against.
No, yes,
They
but
are revolting.
I know,
It's not
but
only
what
the
I'm
poor.
saying, no, it's not about the revolution. I mean, the poor people are getting more poor.
Yes.
This is the problem. I mean, if before he didn't have problem to put his children in schools because he's asking people to give him some money, now nobody is giving him money, and many people now are taking off their children from schools. This is the big problem.
Yeah, okay, this is a plus, but
Yes.
To me,
it's not only
yeah.
the poor.
To me, I think it's not only economical. It's people are changing. People are seeing other countries what they're doing.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
political
Revolution.
what no the political situation. They don't look like us anymore. They ما عادوا يشبهونا. The Lebanese people are more open,
Educated.
yes, or
Than
yes,
the-
and they're seeing other countries what they're going on. Why we are not in that level of living? Not only economically, in every aspect of living, we are not. They don't look like us anymore. They should be changed
You mean the
to meet
leaders?
the leaders,
Yeah,
to
the
meet the Lebanese vision of a country. They don't look like us.
It is
Yes,
true,
I
but
agree
if
with
we,
you.
yes, it is true, but
In
the Lebanese
every aspect,
politicians
not
have
on-
been like this.
Yes.
We are living with them since 40 years. They didn't change. They didn't change. They are the same. The politicians in Lebanon are
Guys,
the
just
same.
one by one, so I can,
Yes.
because we won't get all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry, you wanted to say.
There was a parliamentary election in 2018.
Yeah.
And there was the elections of Beirut, and people voted for the same people. Now what's making the difference is actually the burden, the financial burden on them.
Yes.
They kept on electing the same people and the same parties. It's
Yes.
war.
So what, in the background of all of this, we're well aware of how bad it's been politically for maybe up to 60 years. So that has become part of our DNA in a sense. We don't expect much of the politics anymore. But the economics did take a deadly turn. And then in the background we also have literally this country's on fire at some point. So we're witnessing what looks like almost the end of the story rather than the beginning. Do you see this moment where you have hundreds of thousands of people showing up every day, over and over. Do you see this actually turning the page to something new? Or do you see that the system that we have is entrenched so deeply that a month from now, a year from now, we're going to go back to the same story?
We can't know. It's too recent. In a couple of days, we need to see what's going to happen from the political scene. We haven't heard a word from the presidents, and like they still don't know what to do about this. So we're seeing things as they are unfolding. It's impossible to have visibility to what's going to happen.
Are we waiting for them to decide what they are going to take us, or are we leading the way where we should go? We shouldn't wait for them to decide again where they're going to take us. We should be in a place to decide exactly. The means, we don't know. As just normal people, we don't know how to reach that place, but we shouldn't expect them to lead us again to where they want us to be,
I think
or
the
to
only,
meet.
yes, sorry, but the only way, if we want to do something, is the
We did it. We're doing it.
with the army. But we can do nothing.
What we're doing now, we're doing what we can do, but
Yesterday, so we had Kamala and I, we met here by chance. We were having a similar conversation. We're trying to get to the bottom of whether this is an actual revolution or if it's just a revolt out of anger and rage that will eventually subside. And what do you guys think about that? Because we've seen attempts at revolution before. It's not the first time. But you're describing a situation where everyone in the country is almost seeing the same page for the moment at least. Do you think of this as a true, genuine revolution or a short-term emotional uprising that will just gradually go back? And I don't mean it in a pessimistic way. I actually mean it in an actual reality. Sorry, yeah.
For right now, we don't have any political opposition because they're all, all the politicians, all the parties are working together. So there is no opposition on the political level. So the civil society is actually the only opposition that exists. The only tools that we have now, if we want to avoid deep anarchy, is actually just follow what the Constitution says, meaning no more government. If we can have the army intervene, why not? If the government collapses,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
That there is a transition where the army take over in a way to wait for things to take a different shape.
So before we get opposition to that, just make sure I understand. You want the army to run the country temporarily.
Military.
I'm not really comfortable with that solution because we're in a third world country and we don't really know how this could turn into in terms of another type of oppression.
I'm pushing your opinion here because I think that is a growing sentiment that there is a yearning for something like that, which may not be healthy. But so I wanted to make sure that, so you want martial law in a sense until things change?
I'm not 100% convinced, but I don't see a better solution for now.
You wanted to say something?
No, we don't want a military law. We need a civil law. We need a civil law. Yeah, we are civilians. We don't want a military rulers. Not anymore. We tried it in the past. The three presidents that are ruling the country since decade, they were in the army. From the army, they did nothing. They couldn't achieve anything at all. So no, we don't want the
I'm
army.
just going to disagree for a moment. I think she's not referring to the...
From the parliament, it's a different scheme. It's not the same as if the army is taking over the institution and there is the corruption on the tribes that are...
So I'm going to I'll let other people speak. The army situation, which you see it, people are saying it on TV, you see it being spoken. Can you project just a bit in the future that the power sharing that we live with, which has not treated us well, this Christian-Muslim dance that we've had all of our lives, do you think an Lebanese army is that different? In other words, you'll end up with the same situation with or without martial law. You'll end up with a power sharing even among militia, even among arms.
For me, the most important thing is to stop the corruption and work on the depth and changing the system that is in place. That's.
And in my opinion, I wouldn't mind having Saad al-Hariri stay as a prime minister, but with the pressure of the civilians.
In an army uniform,
No.
as the army leader.
No.
What's worse than the current situation?
No, but under one condition where all these people that are down the street should stay revolting on the street and put an agenda where this government should be dissolved. I don't want anybody from those ministers to be a minister, just to get professional people with their own field to run the ministries that they, and we don't need a 30 ministers to run the country. The U.S. with much larger, how many ministers do they have? 20, 30, whatever, less than this country. We could run this country with 10 and we'll be in our best situation. I don't mind seeing this because I agree with Nadine. A lot of people are saying, let's have a transition government which is run by the military until the situation calms down. But as Ronnie just said, who said the military are not different than the people? Yes. But the only different things is who we are now going downtown asking for a change. If we can stand this getting together down all over Lebanon, just not only in Beirut, by putting the pressure, we're not getting out of the street until this is formed.
Hopefully.
We'll stay as long as it takes. We've been living all our life since 75 till now. We were having the same problem. If we could continue going down the street all over Lebanon, I repeat, not only in Beirut, telling, we don't mind you, you could stay in government, but choose the people that are going to run the country. We don't want this running our country because he belongs to this party or that party.
So let me ask then a different question and maybe get opinions. Sorry, the corruption that we're talking about, real corruption, I mean serious degradation of our economy, proper theft. Can that stuff, that issue, can that be resolved given the structure that we have? So the fact that we live in a country that in a way enhances these problems, it doesn't diminish them. Can you imagine a situation where, let's say, we preserve the system, but we're able to hold these leaders to account? For example, instead of blaming somebody, we actually see them doing things to actually heal the economic wounds. Can you even imagine that? Because I personally find that hard to imagine. I want to see if the power sharing structure we have, because it seems so entrenched. It survived war, it survived.
It's in our DNA.
It seems to be in the DNA.
Yeah.
Can you see corruption being tackled effectively with the climate that we're in, with the political story that we inherit?
I think it takes time, but it can be.
I want to say we should believe in it. Transitions take time. If people want the government to resign now, what's the alternative? Honestly, do we have alternative? Do you see people who can immediately step up and step in and change things? I honestly don't see it. So just back to your question earlier, whether this whole thing is short term or really long term. One of the very important short-term impacts of this is I think the people realize they have a voice, and the establishment realize the people has a voice as well. So that's the immediate impact that all of this is creating.
The only fear, Kamal, the only fear is that people have short breath. The only fear is that after a week we'll be half of this size. This is what I'm afraid of. It's going to take time, but I'm afraid there are not enough push or pressure in street to push them somewhere that we really want, because we have short breath.
Which is normal. More people will stay in the streets for weeks and months, right? So the longer term solution or the impact is people should realize they should start grooming that alternative leadership.
To go back to Ronnie, you said with the corruption, can we move forward?
I mean, I'm talking about given the structure we
Yes, but I'm going to tell you, I mean, I'll go back to the 70s and to the late 60s. Back then, if you go to get, like we used to go to Syria, to Jordan by car. You go to the Lebanese border, you cannot put 100 lira or whatever that at the same time and tell him,
Please.
let me pass. I mean, I used to go by car. In other countries, our neighboring country, you go and you don't want to stand in line, you used to put money and they will let you go.
Yes.
So this is before we were not corrupt. Of course, in every country there are some corruption, but the corruption that we have now, it was never to that extent. Nowadays, you cannot do anything without paying money, and this goes for the way they live. Their salary are not enough. The status, I mean, they don't have medical insurance, they don't have educational.
I'm going to now before you go,
Yeah.
because I want you for this. We have two generations here. One from the war that saw the war happen, and then we have post-war generation too. And I think there's a common thread that we don't talk about enough. Arms outside of the state control seems to be the norm, whether it's the 70s, 80s, 90s, today. There's been almost an unwillingness to look at that issue and link it to what's happening. Can you see a moment where, let's say tomorrow, let's say we actually have a government that resigns, and let's say let's say Aoun steps down, it's unthinkable right now. And Beirut says goodbye. It's very hard to imagine. All of these things happen. Let's say it happens. Can you still see Lebanon moving in the right direction given the situation we have? We have arms outside of the state control. And I know it's a touchy subject, which is why I think for the moment it's not being talked about, or it's being put away, at least for the moment. But I see them as entrenched with each other. I see them as linked. You cannot really address corruption without addressing things that have really stunted the state. Maybe you could share your thoughts on that.
I mean, the international community is so involved in what's happening in Lebanon, so that if the scenario that you mentioned actually happens, you're going to have international
Interference.
interfering and just trying to be there.
But do you link the two together? So corruption and a country that has inherited a warlike scenario permanently. Do you see these two as linked to each other?
The corruption and
The massive corruption that we live with, and the fact that this state is not sovereign.
I just see it as an abuse of power. Gibran Basila, I mean, this is just abuse of power. This is not an inheritance of practices. This guy came and is somehow linked to
So you could see a country that is less corrupt but remains stuck in geopolitical war.
The geopolitical situation maybe it will not change as much, but maybe the balance of power will change because there is a voice which is the voice of the people now, which was inexistent before.
What about
No, things cannot be solved like that. We have a law, but the law is not implemented. Yani we have a civil law in the Lebanese country, but you have an army that is bigger, that is ruling the army of the country. You have Hezbollah, armed militia, and very strong.
We had different groups too. I mean, you're talking about the 70s.
Yeah.
We're talking about
but when Huda said that people they don't have enough salary, that's why they are in the corruption. But what is the corruption for the small salarié? When we talk about big contracts, who started even when was Amin Ismail with the planes. I mean, this is something from 50 years. This is inherited.
Are you able to separate these things? So corruption is one thing, state sovereignty is something else. Do you see them as...
No, because what I want to say, sorry, I speak English now. When people come to govern, they have in their head that they are going to profit from this system. This is the first thing why most people go in the elections. We have money, but we will have more money. Sorry, it is like this in Lebanon, not everyone, but most people put a lot of money because they say now we are going to have more money for electricity, more money for this, they will have more money for them, for their children, for their grandchildren. It's not for the small people who get 100 from here and 100 from here. It starts from Michel Aoun and Basir and goes down for everybody.
Do you know that Frangi, when he was a minister, he told his people, now it's our time. If you don't become out rich from this, don't come and nag on me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now it's your time.
Each one takes
So
turns.
this mentality should be removed.
Yes. They want to.
We're not going in. How?
I'm going to play devil's advocate. These are not opinions I have, but I want to just lay them out and see what your reaction is. Let's put somebody. Let's use a specific name. Let's reference Raya Hassan. She is the Minister of Interior with authority.
Yeah.
She seems to be well-intentioned on a personal level. She is the Minister of Interior while these things are happening. She seems to be, on a personal level, saying the right things and wanting the right things. Someone well-intentioned, put them in the Minister of Interior, and they behave more or less like any other Minister of Interior.
Yeah.
So, let's say you put yourself in power, you put her in power, you put well-intentioned people in power. Does this system let well-intentioned people actually govern the way they need to? No. So let's get to the bottom of this. What would you want changed so that somebody like her, not about her, anyone like her, could inherit a portfolio and actually do good things? What would you want changed?
Maybe it's in the laws.
Similar to Ziad Baroud.
Position, because we've had people try, we've had decent people try.
Institutional changes. We're afraid to talk about institutional changes because this will lead somewhere else. Yeah, when you,
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by institutional?
to let the good people, if they are in a position, a power position, with good intentions, they could rule and not with overpowered because they came belonging to certain political party, so they can rule their own beliefs and their own.
5 years ago we had Medinati Beirut, which I think was a very attractive option then for a moment. You put somebody like Mona Al-Hallah in the Baladi, in the municipality, I think she'll end up in the same situation. With somebody that really wants change,
And
they get
cannot.
shackled. Yeah. This may even be the current political climate. Maybe many people are trying and are unable to. So what does reform actually mean? What would you want?
A patriarchal society, and you have the influence of the religious figures in the country. You have to start with that. It's even more difficult as a woman to instill change in a society that is so old, and the way they do things. Even more when you actually, as an individual, you don't have the basic rights. Depending on to which religion or which sex you belong to. So we start with removing the Taifiyya system. The religious figures on the side.
Do you think is that the spirit of what's happening right now?
I think because people are always now are saying we're all together, Shia, Druze, we all want to be just Lebanese. And you mentioned Raya Hassan, remember that story when you had a couple of Lebanese people who both of them are lawyers and they wanted to have a civil marriage in Lebanon. She was for this and then she had to
Back up.
Because
they didn't allow.
You're gonna enjoy this podcast. There's an episode about that with her, and she says it herself. It's beyond her.
It's
Yeah.
everybody knows,
The lawyer was interviewed before her. He's saying, no, legally it's sound. And then you have the Minister of Interior saying, I may agree personally and I can't publicly. But so you think the secular alternative would let her do her job?
We need to have a change in the society, in in the mentality. So
So-
we need several generations, but
The
we
system.
cannot go.
And
it's not
So maybe I can then get two opinions here, because we're the younger generation. We've seen people complaining about the model for a long time in our lives. People against sectarian governance. You've seen it longer. You've seen it since you were born.
Our life, yeah.
And that seems to be here with us, and will probably be with us when we die. It's hard to uproot that way of governing in Lebanon. It's been impossible to actually dislodge it. The war did not change it either. Actually, the war made it stronger, made it more encouraging. What are the conditions you think to actually get the system overturned? Because that at the end of the day, that's a revolution. That's not a revolt. That's a revolution.
Yeah.
What do you think are the conditions?
It's just about the money. Why this system is still in place? It's just about money. Why today a Christian couple who wants to divorce, do you know how much money they have to pay to actually get their divorce divorce? It's another source of income for the church and the Muslims. Figures. It's a system that is in place. It's just about the money. It's not about ideology. Ideology is just a tool to control people. That's it. So the state has to be stronger than the religious.
So that's the younger generation.
Yes.
But
No,
what about?
I'm totally with my daughter. If everyone is going to stick to his religion and to defend only his religion, we will not go further than 3 days revolution here. I think we have to be in a country now where we
Forget about
it, and marriage, civil marriage. If civil marriage is civil law is installed, I think many problems will be resolved. As she said, you can do nothing without, because they have their power is what they gain. They
Inherited.
They have money, their money. They are building right now. We are 20. We are in the. We're going to enter in the 23rd century. They are
two generations in the same family, you put the burden on the sectarian system.
Yes, what I see, it is offensive. They are building new churches. They are building new mosques, and I mean, people, they are little bit want to get out of this, and they are
Holding to it.
and they are telling them, no, you have to be stuck
Do
to
you guys
this.
see it the same way, that at the core it's just sectarianism?
I see it.
Yeah,
The only solution is when you remove
problem.
religion from the identity, the passport or whatever. No religion at all. We vote for people for their qualifications, how good, how they fit the position they are applying to. Forget about religion. Religion is the only disease that is killing Lebanon.
So,
Have your religion at home. Keep it at home.
You know, sorry.
Can I just,
Yeah.
I'll interrupt.
Yeah.
So, can you, because we know each other, and I'm going to introduce you, Rafa Qais,
Habibi.
my Arabic instructor 30 years ago. The
Habibi.
reason I don't speak Arabic.
He was. Like, how long
That's
did
why
I
she's a good
tell them how
teacher.
long did I teach you?
Maybe too long, because it didn't.
No, Habibi.
I'm kidding. I'm teasing.
Yeah, okay.
The only reason I know a bit of Arabic is you. Can you yourself go to Mukhtara and bring Jumblat to Beirut? Can you see that? Do you have the guts to go to your respective religion's leader and say, come down, we're going to arrest you? Can you even imagine that? I can't imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine it too, because first of all, I'm not a follower.
No, even if you're not
So,
following.
but you're talking about someone that follows him, you mean?
I say this, and this is the sectarian model we're stuck with. Do you imagine Sunnis going to Sarai?
Yeah, no.
Do you see Maronites going to
No.
Okay. Do you see Shia going to Ain?
Now, let me tell you, like yesterday, I was in the
I mean
mountain
this in
running.
the sectarian sense. Can you see respective faiths saying that all of these things have not worked? I can't see that.
It is,
But it's
not
okay.
easy.
Can I tell you
It will
something
take
very
time, but it
important?
will.
Now, I met you.
It started.
You know what some Lebanese people do?
And I say this because you know what? This last time that we tried something like this in 2005, we tried. The president of the country was protected for sectarian reasons, not for political reasons.
Yeah.
No, it's a real yeah.
They will jump
It's
on you
really-
because
Oh, I thought you were mocking
No,
the yeah.
no, I'm totally.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good yeah.
Yeah, but what I wanted to tell you something, a little something.
That's the power of the system.
Now, you are Roni. I just see you.
Yeah.
Some people, you know, until now what they do. When they go out, they ask each other, is he Christian or Muslim? This hurts me in Lebanon now.
Yeah.
People, when I'm introduce me to other people, okay?
But the new generation
After that, it is in our. We are 50 years old. We are going to live 30 years more. People always ask, what is his religion?
from where?
He's from where? What is
So
his
they know
religion?
the
I mean, if we stop asking each other, what is the religion of this person? What is of the religion of this person? It will be
It
okay.
won't stop.
I don't think
It's not stopping it.
I don't think people ask each other that question.
Yes.
No, sorry.
Yes. They don't ask you. They don't ask you, but.
No, I meant those questions are not necessarily bad. So let's say you have a country where a bunch of different people live together. That's not in itself a bad thing. You can have 100% of the same crowd and they will disagree on things too. But do you imagine respective communities being able to hold their respective leaders together?
Yes.
Do you imagine that?
You know why? I saw it in Sur, I saw it in Batroun, I saw it in Juni. On TV, if you were watching, and the three places, I've never seen them before. What they did in Sur, in Batroun, and in Juni.
Yeah.
So that's at the end what makes it unique.
It started. I see it. It's a flame that's starting. It will take time. But even in the mountains, I tell you, I was there this week, and I wanted to come here, and I couldn't because the roads were closed. But they said there is one gathering in Ba'alin or somewhere. My brother is the head of my village municipality. So he called to ask how is it there. He said they told him they are holding Ishtiraki flags. He said forget it, we're not throwing. We at home, we forget it. But others went probably, but still not too many. Today in Deir al-Amar, they are marching towards Kferhim on the Lebanese flags. So there is a big group of people of those who live in the mountain, who are considered jumlatis or heki. Many people are changing. I tell you the truth. Some do it just to protect themselves as a sect, as this country is divided. But when it comes to one Lebanon, everyone wants to get rid of Jumblat and of others. Believe me, everybody. But those who live up there and they have no choice except him, even if he is a Qta'i or is like anyone else.
This is having no choice but
it started.
Yes,
People
40 years
started.
ago we didn't have this.
No.
When I was in school, when I was in university, we didn't bother to know who is with us.
No, not at
It's
all.
not
Even
like
when we left the States.
because we felt
My
there is a
children used to-
system that can protect us more. We had the feeling that we're protected by our
weren't as
government.
corrupted. They weren't as corrupted.
But now, because they were pulling the system away towards their own power situations,
This is
we
the
don't
worst.
have
Nelly,
a place to go back to because
I think this was a result of the Civil War. 1975 Civil War
Now,
enhanced the sectarianism in Lebanon.
Probably.
1975, and it stayed till the war ended. But nowadays, it's changing. Today and yesterday, this is the first time
can see a
I
change,
see
a big
the
change.
change. I've never ever seen a change against religious
Religious leaders.
or head of a party,
Parliament.
as I saw it in the past couple of days.
I'll just go back to one point. We now have one party in the government that officially resigned last night.
Wait.
There's an Jaja's, and I think he officially did step down. His minister stepped down. Jumblat expressed
He's
interest,
willing.
willing. And I don't know if anyone else has said anything like that yet. Let's say Hariri tomorrow. The deadline is tomorrow. And let's say he steps down. Do you see something better emerging because of that decision?
On the spot.
There is nothing worse, Ronnie.
Not on the spot, but we now have you have effectively a prime minister who's resigned. You have an opposition coalition forming. Do you see Lebanon actually getting something better later because of these decisions?
No, I don't think it's better.
It's not better, but it's not worse.
No,
We've
it could
reached
be
past
worse.
that.
It could be worse because
I
there's
am afraid
I
of the
can,
worst.
I can see Hezbollah stepping in.
exactly, and this is worse.
So no, but the whole nation will be
In
against it.
effect, they've already stepped in by saying that we
That
want
you cannot.
Hadi to stay.
They are already directing the maestros.
But let's say he steps down anyway. I mean, it's hard for me to see what that outcome brings. On a positive or negative, it's hard. But it's really hard to see the positive. It's very hard. So what are the conditions now needed so that it doesn't degenerate and it actually moves in the right direction? Do you expect the same from Baal? Do you want him to step down?
No.
You want him to stay?
No, I don't want him to stay, but he will never resign.
I think,
he will never step down.
This is the problem.
Birri, he will never step down.
Yes.
I think
Birri will never step down. Aoun will never step down.
But what
I
I
think
was
so.
saying,
This
the
is the
unique-
problem.
the
It's
unique-
only Hariri who is going to with the government, but
But he's not the problem, actually.
he's not the problem. But
That's
they
not
will
the-
not.
The
It's not
sad
only-
thing is,
Yes, yes,
those who
it's not
are
the-
resigning
yes.
are not the.
So this pressure is going
essence.
anywhere. Then
This pressure
to-
it will be
if we
only
keep-
on the
if
government.
Hariri
Why?
is
This
still there.
revolution, we need to do
But let us say
Be
at the beginning,
direct.
she said it several
directed.
times. The places that you see protests happening are in Israel.
Yeah.
Can you see those protests actually turning into living goods? Can you see people in Sur actually being able to bring liberty,
Down.
They did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
actually dislodge him from power? The way,
Okay, I know.
the kind of stuff we expect might happen to Hariri.
Yes.
I think yes.
Yes.
Not out of old age. I'm talking about
Yes, I think
Yes,
yes, because the new generation, like you, they had it with these things. I think it will. That's why I'm saying the best thing to continue with your generation, not ours,
the same
to continue
politicians.
this movement and don't stop.
Like people are still.
this is
Yes,
on the
it's the
long
new
run.
generation.
If we're talking tomorrow,
Nelly, it has to go. You cannot start something and let die. Say, okay, I couldn't do anything. No. If you believe in something, you have to work for it.
We cannot stop.
You cannot stop.
Now we cannot stop.
It will
I
bring
think before
a change,
asking them to
but we need
resign,
to be
Ronnie,
agile.
before asking them to resign, we should ask them to return the money they stole while they are still in power.
So I've heard two things actually. That the first one was the temptation for army rule. Temptation. That's the other thing. That's gaining ground.
Let them
Yeah.
and then stay and do the right thing
Right. So
if
we-
they want to stay.
Yeah.
who is going to force them to return the money? Do you think
Something
this,
the judge
this
is
will?
the
But they
court of
can be
justice.
Power of the people.
Power.
Ben Ali in Tunisia, they took his money.
He
They
went
can
penny
do it.
with
They
that.
did it
In Saudi Arabia, they got the
They
money
can,
back.
they can.
They can get
They
it.
can.
We can get the money
This
back.
is what we
took
should
it?
ask for,
Who
not
took
for
the
them to
money?
resign, I think.
The other حرامية اللي كانوا معه?
See?
No, a clean person who came and did it. نحن we cannot ما عندنا بقى بالسيستم حدا نضيف to rely on to do this. نحن السيستم تبعنا كله.
You know what's interesting though is that
sorry, I'm
no, no, no,
I'm
no,
talking in Arabic.
No, that's
Eh,
okay. I
eh.
think the system is okay.
بيفهم عربي.
No, but see, the thing is, this is now an emotional outburst that was triggered by a stupid decision.
Yeah, about the
So
WhatsApp.
that brought a lot of
What is-
people in, and they're not going away now. But we've had elections. We've had
They
action.
elected them
We actually have
chance to change and they didn't take it.
not once or twice, several times, and we kept this intact. And
Yeah.
people that wanted change
Change.
preserved what's really there.
Yeah.
So what is different?
Yeah.
I mean, you give people the vote.
Now we have
Young
to give the
people wanted the
vote.
change.
Now we
Young
have to give them
people.
the
Yeah.
vote.
When I
They can
voted,
do a vote.
my daughter told me,
استفتاء شو
you
بيقولوا له
are
general.
voting for the people, for the same people. And
Were
she-
there any other people there?
But now we should have...
voted.
We were 6 people in Batloon who voted against Jumblat. مش لأنه أنا ما
No,
أعرف يعني
but I want to tell you
So
something.
even those people that showed up last time, Kuluna, Watani, these people, one person got
Beirut
involved.
Medinati.
Beirut Medinati.
Had a very good
Sure, you're right. And then 0 members ended up in the municipality.
because
Yeah.
we don't know if actually the results were, were
مشروع
and
something with the
went up
results.
at 8 and then there was
No, but I'm not trying to be
results.
too hard on them, but I'm saying that the numbers don't seem to match expectations.
Change is slow. You need to look in deltas compared to the previous elections, which was close to 0, and then they were just that close to getting 1 spot. The next elections will be better. You can't just expect a jump, in an overnight. Right? It's just it takes time. People develop awareness, and there's a momentum.
We're in the same generation. Do you see us telling our kids that we actually made the country better? Because our parents' generation clearly it didn't work. Do you think we actually have the capability of doing things like what you're saying, which is an effective overhaul of the system?
We have a problem is here our generation. I'm 36. Basically, the people who are my age and early 40s men have fleeing the country every year. You have so many people fleeing the country. You have a gap, a generational gap. You have either generations in their early 20s or the older generation who are who inherited the war. But my generation, everybody just want to go away. It's very rare to find someone with political, wish or everybody's take an impulse or a vocation,
Really, to go back to your, you said we had 2 times election and we elected the same people. And I think they were elected the same people. If you look at the percentage of the people that went to elect, it was so minimal. Because most of the generation, they said, why should I go to elect somebody? My vote's not going to count. And this is the worst attitude you take. When you take this attitude, then the other are definitely going to stay in power. So first you have to educate people. Every single one should go and elect. They didn't believe in their system, and they said we're not going to go to the election. The number of the percent. What was the percent of people that went to elect? It was very low.
Very low.
In Ashrafiyya, it was like in their upper 20s or 30. In Beirut, it was in the 40%. So that wasn't a representation.
When your patriotism is stronger than your sectarian, then you need to.
What is stronger?
Then you're
Patriotic.
If you're more patriotic than your sectarian, your devotion or it's more to your country more than your religion. Then we can have a better.
They are not ready, but you can see it.
At the end of the
This
day,
is what.
At the end of the day, the last time we saw a huge protest erupt was 4 years ago in 2015 over trash.
The trash.
And the trash crisis was not solved. It was actually just dumped into the sea. So that's not a solution. 14 years ago, we saw an upswell of anger and emotion against the Syrians. They left, the occupation ended, but the political evolution never happened.
Yeah.
This time around, do you actually see more than just a cosmetic change? Do you see anything beneficial? And try to project. You see it? Yeah. Well, that's a good place to end it.
There is hope, always.
Well, hopefully hopefully there's more hope.
Yeah, there is.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yalla.
Thank you.
My name is Rina Mohsen. I studied journalism. I worked in marketing. I quit my job 2 months ago, and now I'm chilling.
My name is Omar Shata. I moved back to Lebanon about 5 years ago. I was living in San Francisco, California. I studied finance and worked in investment banking in London. Graduated from Columbia University. And I moved to Lebanon wanting to come back home.
And once again, it's me, Ronnie. I'm supposed to be doing the tour right now. Obviously, I'm not doing it. I'm here instead. So we come from different backgrounds, but now this is the younger generation speaking. I think we're all pretty much the same age, going through the same situation together. Give or take a few years. We have finance, we have journalism, and we have business, small business. I don't know what I call myself, but let's say this, I do this. And I think we've heard it enough times from our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation that this is not unusual. This is the norm. People go to the streets every now and then. Every few years there's an issue that unites people, unites enough people. Today it seemed like there were maybe 1 million. We don't know. It could be up to 1 million. It could be more. The truth is it actually doesn't. The number isn't relevant anymore. Do you think, and this is an instinctual feeling, this is not an academic or scientific question, instinctually, do you think that this time around is different, that it's unique? Or do you feel something else, that this is actually, no, it's the norm, and things will go back to the way they are always done in this country?
I do. I think I have hope. I don't think it's going to be different, but I do have hope, and I think it's better to try, I guess. I think I'm here not because I believe in what everyone's saying, but I'm here because I don't want to be the person they need to be here, and I'm not, I guess. I think I have hope, and if there's hope, I don't want to be the person to break it, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it's different. I've never seen anyone from Nabatiyeh, living in Nabatiyeh, saying things about their leader or in Sur. I mean, my mom's from Jnoub, and I know everyone there. I know the people from Sur and from Nabatiyeh, and it's never been like this ever. And I'm really proud of everyone. I want to be supportive of that, I guess.
Can you just unpack that, though? What do you mean by this has never happened for Jnoub? What exactly does that mean?
A Shiite guy living and is from Nabatiyeh saying, I hate Nabih Berre, he's a thief. That's never happened before. And usually if someone ever said that, they would be dead the next day. And then he came the next day and said the same thing. He said, I'm not backing out. And I don't think I've ever seen that.
And the reason I'm asking is because that's exactly what we heard earlier.
Yeah.
That's the real striking difference, that you have protests, geographic places that have not happened in our lifetime or previous generations. But you're here because you're hopeful.
Yeah.
And what exactly are you hopeful about?
I'm not hopeful about the government leaving. I'm hopeful about a change. Even if they do stay, maybe they'll learn their lesson. Maybe, I don't know, but I do hope for something. I mean, those people are all together. No one's talking about politics. No one's talking about their religions or their sects. For the first time, people are standing together. I mean, 2 days ago from the airport, there was a Shia guy and a Sunni guy together taking us back to our homes because they just felt like they should do a nice thing for someone coming back home. I think it's nice. Why?
So if I understood this right, you're hopeful that the country is healing in some way, that people are doing things that they're united on to a certain degree.
Yeah.
And they're helping each other through a time of...
And they're changing their minds when we thought that some people would never really change their minds about certain things. Whether it's Hariri or Berre or Nasrallah, like, it's just crazy. People who said things one time are saying completely different things, and they say, I voted for this person and now I regret it. They're not saying, I hate this, I don't want to live here anymore. They're saying, I voted for this person and now I regret it and I want to make a change. So I respect that.
I definitely think this is different from previous demonstrations in the sense that it's an organic, individual, grievance-based, collective voice of frustration. Like the voices and the complaints that we're hearing are not me, my political leader against you, your political leader, or my group against your group, or anything like that. It's basic human issues that everyone has a story to share on. So in that sense, it's different. And I think that reflects, yes, the maturity of the people and the maturity of the voices of people demonstrating. However, I'm a little less optimistic in the ability of individuals to affect change on the state, in the sense that for hundreds of years, this society, state aside, this society has been run by tribal, feudal affiliations, whether they cut the pie up in the Ottoman Empire or they do it today in the Lebanese Republic. It's the same groups. Maybe the names change here and there, but the divisions are definitely the same, sectarian-based, and the allocation of resources is similarly divided. I have very little faith in the state to respond to the demands of ordinary people. I think the entrenched interests of the let's say the feudal sort of power centers are much more robust than a lot of the demonstrators are giving them credit for, and I think if it persists, if people continue to demand things that basic rights that the state can't provide, then no election will really, no election, no resignation, no government can really provide that. And if it continues for a while, people might eventually revert back to their feudal affiliations.
What brought you then today with that kind of leak out? What brought you to Martyrs Square?
Definitely the social aspect is different, and it's something I identify with. I mean, I do identify with the protesters demonstrating, and I do share the same individual grievances that they have, and I want to support that. My concern is what the next step would be. If when they're asking that all the political leaders resign, okay, well, what's the next step? Who's going to deliver on the tough decisions that are really at the core of the grievances that they have, whether it's public debt, infrastructure, corruption, whatever. When it comes to actually acting out on those, who are the people that are going to be able to deliver? I don't have faith that technocratic, neutral, however capable individuals will be able to do it. I think the only people who can deliver us from our problems are ironically the same people who cause those problems, because power in this country does not come from the state down, it comes from the street up.
So Cameron, in the last few hours, we went half a kilometer away, we went to the outskirts of the protest and back. And we kept saying the same thing. We said it yesterday and the day before, that it just feels good to see this happen. That is a positive emotion when you see what looks like genuine joy on the street. And we witnessed it more today. The numbers are large. It's a good occasion. People are celebrating something. You said earlier that you expressed some reservation and you also expressed some hope. Can you unpack what you felt today when you're walking around and you're seeing the slogans, you're hearing chants, you're walking with me, and we're seeing this happen together? What were your emotions today? All the politics and economics aside for a moment, what is the knee-jerk reaction when you see this and you hear it and you feel it?
Well, I was genuinely happy because first time I came here, I had very little expectations of what is it that I'm gonna see, and those expectations came from my social media channels. I saw on Instagram my friends already in the streets protesting. I saw the whole ambiance, how it was, and it was that's what made me want to join them in the streets. And then when I was here on Friday, I was very surprised. Everyone was synchronized, happy, everyone was polite, protesting in a very civilized way, and even if there were some curses, it was very melodic. Yeah, it was very civilized, very pleasant, made me very happy, made me want to come back on Saturday, made me want to come back today, and each day it's just a snowball effect going.
You said something which was striking to me. You're young enough to have witnessed the March 14 moment.
Yeah.
And you said when we were crossing Martyrs Square that today felt better than then, in that protest. What felt better this time?
I'll tell you what. Probably on March 14, it was some political movement asking people to go and protest for a certain vision that they have for the country. While today, even for the garbage crisis, there was Beirut Madinati or طلعت ريحتكم asking people to come, asking people to join. While today it was my friends asking me to join, really individuals, Gino. It was really like a bottom-up movement. It was just I saw my friends out there. I identify with them, like Omar said, and I just want to join them also. I don't want to be the reason for this to fail or not fulfill its full potential. That's what was different for me.
Earlier, the question came up that do you think that this is just an emotional rage against the corruption in the country, or do you see this as a genuine attempt at upending the system that we've grown up with, that our parents grew up with, that our grandparents grew up with? Is there a separation here between I'm angry that the economy is so bad, and then of course we talked about it briefly as well, that social media may be the catalyst and the reason people are joining today. It just went too far. Do you see that as a sort of connection between genuine uprising, that we're going to actually have a different kind of government later, or is this just a temporary confined burst of rage?
I don't think it's just emotional. Every time it's emotional, but I've seen other demonstrations like طلعت ريحتكم. It was really emotional. People were living in garbage. I mean, people were angry. The economy's been bad since forever, but this time people are not just angry. They want to change, and they are suggesting things. Maybe they're not the best suggestions, but they are trying. And I think it's more than just anger. I think people are just fed up with having a leader. And that's the real change that I've seen, because in 2005 or طلعت ريحتكم or all this stuff, you always hear people saying, everything's bad, but if we listen to this person, everything's going to be fine. And this time, they don't want to listen to anyone anymore. And I think that's the difference between our parents' generation and now. I think people...
This is a leaderless...
Yeah, I think so. I mean...
Born out of social media.
And I guess social media has been around for a few years now, and we have had demonstrations since then, but this one's different. I never went to any of the previous ones because I never felt that I had to, but this time it just feels a bit more... It feels like a duty for me to be here, even if I'm not going to make a difference.
Can I jump in? I think the reason why we're all enjoying this moment is because no one is taking any decisive decisions here. You know, like it's just a venting of frustration. In 2005, there was a clear decision. Withdraw Syrians, don't withdraw Syrians. That country was split. In 2012, whenever the طلعت ريحتكم demonstrations were, yeah, everyone didn't like garbage, but as soon as someone wanted to dump garbage in their neighborhood, no, the country got divided. Don't throw garbage in my spot, or don't throw garbage there, or don't go, throw it somewhere else. Now people are venting frustrations, but there's no silver bullet that's going to save us from all of this. Eventually, when all the flags are put away, there are going to be some difficult decisions to be taken. There's no rich boogeyman you can lock up in a hotel and say, give us back our money, that's going to solve everything. Nor is there a panacea that's just a magic silver bullet. there are tough decisions that need to be taken to undo the mess of the past 30 years. And no one is going to want to be the one to pay it. And once whoever it is who's going to come and pay it, once it's their turn, it's going to take some really magical collective action from all of the stakeholders in the system. And that's the reason why I'm skeptical of any neutral third party coming in. Today it feels good because we're all complaining. But tomorrow, when, tuitions on the Lebanese university have to go up to $20,000 to cover excessive teachers, faculty in the university, or we need to dump garbage in an area where people don't like it, or half the military needs to be disbanded because we're wasting money on the military, or taxes need to go up X-fold to cover the debt, or any other thing, or what else? Or the weapons of Hezbollah need to be disarmed because that's reducing Gulf and institutional investment in the country. Whatever it is, the country will be divided. So we're at a point now where we need to undo 30 years of mismanagement, and that's going to be a very difficult challenge. And the only people who can do that are those who have a vested interest in it, and that's when this whole thing will fizzle out. So, and worst case scenario, we'll all be divided again. So I think we're enjoying this moment because we're just complaining. We're not solving anything.
And I then maybe I'll take it a step back. We're young enough and old enough at the same time, optimistic and pessimistic at the same time. You were mentioning the geography, that you saw protests happening in unusual places.
Yeah.
Nobody in particular. I'm just going to throw this out there. To you, what is more symbolic? And I'm speaking on sectarian terms in Lebanese words, where you have Maronites storming Babda, bringing on down to Beirut. You have Sunnis storming the Sarai, bringing Hariri down. You have Shia going to Dahi and Ain al-Tini, bringing Nasrallah and Birri to Martyrs Square. That kind of genuine change. Is that even foreseeable, where you have true accountability? Because I think Omar he's reflecting on that is never going to happen, therefore these people need to be held to account to a degree. And I'm talking about the genuine revolution. Is there any way to even imagine that? And I'm talking about respective communities going to their leaders and saying, you failed us.
Yeah.
Jews go to Mukhtara. I mean, all of that, right?
I don't really see it happening.
Yeah.
I wish it would. I hope it would. I don't see it happening, but Would
that to you be a necessary precondition for genuine?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I would rather have that happen than put my trust in the people who caused the problem in the first place. How are the people who caused this problem going to solve the same thing they caused? I mean, this sounds even more impossible.
No, I know. That's why I called it earlier a catch-22. I mean, it is definitely a catch-22. I just don't see the feeling I felt on the streets today was one more of frustration and celebration and having a good time, waving the Lebanese flag, one I'm wearing right now, and just a feel-good mood and a collective just venting, which is great. That's part of the reason why I'm down. But I don't see the folks on the street here doing exactly what you just described, which it's the storming of the Winter Palace. We don't have that. We don't have the storming of the Bastille. We don't have pulling Marie Antoinette out of her palace and changing. That's not happening here, and I don't think that ever has really happened in Lebanon. So I'm trying. I'm putting my feelings aside, what I'd like to see, and just saying, okay, given these parameters, what is the best case scenario I can hope for? I would hope that folks stay on the street. I hope that this genuine frustration stays there and people are not afraid to, complain about their leaders and be held and hold them to account. But I don't think that there's no silver bullet that's going to come and sort of change thing, and nor are people ready to completely do away with the old guard. We need to work within those boundaries.
Ronnie, to answer your question, we're talking here the scale of a country. It's not a group of 3-4 friends. Like it's talking about a whole country, a couple of million people. And any change will only be, any transition will only be slow and very happening just progressively. You're not gonna see a step change all of a sudden. So go back a couple of months in time and you would never see demonstrations in Nabatieh or Sur chanting against certain people. Now we're seeing it. So for placing everything on the spectrum from one extreme end, which is nobody doing anything, towards this, versus the other end of the spectrum that you described, every sect going after their leader, probably people moved 1 or 2 boxes towards what you're talking about. So with time, people will allow themselves to do a bit more. Maybe one day this will happen, but it's definitely not in the foreseeable future because...
Four of us are old enough to have voted several times now in these elections. Our generation helped entrench the same politicians. So we didn't wake up from the Civil War and say, finally, the old guard is out, fresh politicians. On the contrary, our generation solidified their children's rule. What makes it different this time? Let's anticipate in a few hours Hadid resigns. Let's assume he will. And elections are called. And then in a few months there's a general election. Is it even, can you see Lebanese genuinely overhauling all the families and all the politicians that have been around for generations? For me it's very difficult to see that. And I say this because we've gone through protests, and then we had elections immediately after, and very little change, very little. If anything, actually, it was just cosmetic. It wasn't structural change. The old entrenched groups preserved power. So let's say he resigns. Let's even go further. Own steps down, which is very difficult to see. Verde packs up and says goodbye. I can see it, that they're brought back in. We would actually, to some degree, maybe we would help bring them back again. I don't want to sound too cynical, but would you disagree with that?
No, that's kind of what I'm afraid of too. But I think the people here, most of these people here either didn't vote or voted but really regret it now. So maybe...
So these are almost silent...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people did not vote and then said, I wish I did. So I hope if it's not the people who are going to vote for Hariri and Dawn and whatever, at least the ones who didn't vote, maybe because the ones who didn't vote are just fed up and really don't care anymore. So maybe this time they're going to say, maybe my vote does count. So I have hope in those people. I think you're right. That's kind of what I'm afraid of. But I have hope in those who never voted, I guess. Maybe. We'll see.
Any sentiment there?
The last parliamentary elections, I was incredibly disappointed because for all of the flaws in the electoral law, it really, it was an election. And the voter turnout, the low voter turnout, and the voting patterns of those who did vote absolutely just re-solidified the same crowd. Again, I was at one polling station. I saw tons of people coming out of a building across the street just collecting their checks, or not even checks, collecting cash for voting a certain way. I can see that happening again. I don't want to say I have no faith in people whatsoever. I'm a firm believer in democracy, but you get what you ask for. Having said that, there's no problem in having elections again. If I was a betting man, I would say we have a similar result, maybe a few new names, but regardless of who comes in, when the difficult decisions that need to be taken are taken, there's only a handful of people who can deliver us from that, and unfortunately those people aren't going anywhere. I just want to point one more thing. A couple of years ago, maybe about, it was a while ago, maybe like 5 years ago, when Nabih Berri had the infamous Tawlet Hiwar, the dialogue tables, round tables, many of those people who were in charge were not actually elected officials. I mean, no one voted Nasrallah into anything. He's not an official anything, right? He's probably the most powerful person in the country, but he's not even a parliamentarian. He's nothing. He's literally a nothing, but he's the most powerful person in the country. When the last presidential elections happened, the patriarch came out and said, we Christians accept one of these four people. I think it was Amin Ishmael, Sleiman Frangieh, On Jaja. Okay, every single one of those, maybe with the exception of a few, were nothing, not even members of parliament, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe they were all members of parliament, but they were nothing. I mean, what? Who was the patriarch to decide that these are the four suitable Maronites in the entire country? And the answer is that power in this country is not derived from individuals or from the state. It's derived from communities that are sectarianly labeled, but really just at the end of the day, families and mafias that have their tentacles spread throughout the country. And that's the way it's been for hundreds of years. So, elections, revolution, etc., unless you go and like remove every single one of them as you described, that extreme scenario, we're stuck with them. And, the people, and again, what makes today different is that it's individuals venting frustration. They need to continue holding them to account. But at the end of the day, we're stuck with the decision makers that we have because that's a social thing that has very little to do with state.
I think it's not spoken about enough how strong the system is. And in 2005, an upswell, a genuine, real revolt. And sectarianism preserved the presidency, not the people. The sectarian system kept a very unpopular president throughout maybe the most difficult period of transition. And he stuck around, and the church, the system, preserved him and made sure that he would stay. Even if most Lebanese Christians didn't want him at that point. But still, it's not up for debate. And that's why I always think of, it sounds a bit cheesy here, and I referenced him before, but Kamal Salibi, that book that he left us with, The House of Many Mansions. Lebanon is not a house. It's many mansions. And it's hard to see communities going indoors. They go outdoors quite a bit. They don't go indoors that much. They rarely do. I want to speculate here. Let's say tomorrow the lira is permanently fixed to the dollar at 1,500. Let's say the forest is reforested, the trees are brought. Let's say the trash crisis ends and we have a giant recycling plant in British Columbia, and the airport dump becomes a sort of eco-friendly park. The insane imagination. Do you think, is that what it's all about? People would say, you know what? It's over, we did it. Good night.
No. That's not what people want.
Okay, so if those things that led to this crisis now, all the economic burden, all the mismanagement, all the corruption is finally over, do you think people would have the appetite to then say, okay, now is the time, we're going to overthrow the system? Or is that really just, this is a reaction to what's been happening? Keep the system, get these people to, do their work better. Going back to what Omar was talking about.
This is definitely just a reaction to what happened, but I feel like they hate them now. They really hate them, that they don't want to be led by these people anymore, even if those people all take an oath and say, I will never steal any money from these people, and I'm gonna fix everything, and we're gonna have electricity and all this stuff. I think it's more than that. People are just done with everyone, and I don't know. I don't see everyone being happy again anytime soon.
I think people are conditioned, the reward, and they ask for something. You gave the example of 4 topics. Everyone was in the streets asking for it, and they get it. That's a reward that they got for something they were asking for, which reinforces that behavior to ask for more. Maybe in the last 30 years, people have been asking for so much, and every single time getting a slap for it. so they stopped asking. So that was encouraging a passive behavior. So yes, addressing these topics and maybe deciding positively on those in the next few meetings will not take the country to the dreamland that we all have in mind, but it will reward people's behavior, which will encourage everyone to do it again in 6 months, in a year, and time after time, people will start asking for more fundamental stuff, you know,
So in your
rethink the whole system, the electoral law, everything.
So in your opinion, there's no turning back on this?
There shouldn't be. There can be. Now, like, if all these demands are not addressed, then it's back to getting the slap instead of getting the reward. So that's why people have to be keen on getting those small wins, if you want.
Yeah.
And then hopefully it's a long-term thing, you know. It's not gonna end at some point and everyone's happy at the countries. There will always be movement towards a better place.
Now, something we heard repeatedly, it's become the norm now, secularism, right? Anti-sectarian sentiment, anti-sectarian government. That seems to be everyone's slogan is against sectarianism. I'm guessing all of us are secular in our private lives and in our public lives. Do you think that is the issue at its core, that the sectarian system allows all of this to happen? Or do you think, no, the sectarian system actually gives everyone some comfort in their place? I mean, at the core, at the bottom, is it all about sectarian governance or not?
I think, yeah, it's our biggest problem. I mean, it's not because it gives us comfort. I think it's because a lot of people are guilty of saying, it's okay, I belong to these people, so they can help me get this done. Or, you know, just sometimes, even if you're against it, we're all guilty of getting something because of who we were when we were born. So I think that's the main problem. And I think also it's still present. It's not just gonna disappear. When those 4 ministers just resigned yesterday, all the people from this sect joined today because they said, okay, our leaders left, so let's join the others now. So I think it's still present. It's not just gone.
But the alternative would be a secular state. Is that the dream that everyone shares here?
I think so.
Yeah? What do you share?
No, I think it is the problem because we all agree the problem that we have is the leaders, they're the warlords, and the sectarian system is allowing those leaders to rally people's support purely based on their sect/geography, so they don't have proper vision or merit to do everything. If you eliminate sectarianism, then you will need leaders to propose new ideas. And if those ideas are not about just protecting Sunnis, protecting Shias, protecting Christians' positions in the country, they will need to come up with legit...
So could you draw a line between mediocrity and corruption and all that?
Definitely.
To sectarianism? You draw the line
Definitely.
there. Let me ask you a more difficult question. Do weapons out of the state's control, whether it's Hezbollah today or previous groups in our history, do you see a line there between Lebanon being perpetually at war in the region and horrible governance that we have? Do you see any connection there, or are these separate matters altogether?
If you think of Hezbollah as an organization, it's definitely built around a sect.
So even they would be, their arms would be disarmed if we remove the sectarian system. You see that as almost one and the same.
I mean, removing the sectarian system needs to be done on papers, but also in people's minds, right?
Yeah.
Which is the harder part to do, and it also needs a lot of time. It's not going to happen in an overnight or in 6 months. So yes, if we manage to remove sectarianism from people's minds and hearts on the really longer terms, I don't think we will be facing the same, we will have the same entity that Hezbollah is today.
On the point of sectarianism, I don't like to use the term sectarianism. I think that term is thrown around a lot and it has a lot of emotional weight. A lot of people don't want to be associated with being sectarian because it conjures up, negative prejudices and stuff like that. To me, the more accurate term for society here is really feudal, and I use the word feudal because it's around allocation of resources and strength and power. The religious aspect is window dressing, but it's really about allocation of resources and power. Now, we have a model for how to move away, how societies have moved away from feudal ways of thinking and self-identification and ways of engaging with society to an individual a society based on individuals. And that was really pre versus post-industrial Europe. Europe, during the Middle Ages, was feudal, and folks identified with the count or the lord or the duke or the territory from which they came, not necessarily because they really cared so much about being Catholic or Protestant or this branch of Protestantism or that branch of Catholicism, but because that this particular duke or lord or whatever count guaranteed their security, their job, their food, right? That changed, and by the way, when the leader changed his religion, the whole town changed with them. So it wasn't about God, it was about money, food, security. That changed when the first factories started opening in the major cities of Europe, and folks started moving from the feudal estates that they were coming from to the tenements of Berlin, Paris, London, etc. When those individuals, those feudal individuals, when their job security, income, food was dependent not on their feudal lord, but rather on their job, their employer, and their colleague, who could be named, if not Ali versus Omar, the Protestant Catholic equivalent. That's when they started to say, whoa, I'm before I'm a Protestant or a Catholic, I'm a Mason, I'm a Smith, and that's where actually we get a lot of those names from. It comes from industrial Europe, or slowly industrializing Europe, and that's why the ideas of the Enlightenment and individualism found a fertile soil from which to grow. It was that revolution, the migration from the feudal estates to the tenements of industrial Europe, and the individual consciousness that laid a fertile soil for Enlightenment individual-style thinking that led to the sort of let's say the de-sectarianism or de-feudalization of Europe. In Lebanon, we never had that. In Lebanon, we came from our territories, our towns. We have our own dukes and lords. They're called Bek Bek and Basha and whatever these, Sheikh, whatever. We have our equivalents. The country is so small, and the system that we inherited from the Ottomans was recreated with some Republican window dressing in 1943. We really have this feudal system today. We don't have the tenements of London or Paris as a fertile breeding ground for Ali and Omar to start thinking of themselves as Najjar or the Smith equivalent. So we need to have that, and to me that comes from economic changes. Now, how do you get that, barring mass migration? To me, the only way out of this is through private initiative, private sector, use the term here loosely, but really empowering individuals to create wealth and create their own independence, economic independence, and not be reliant on their zaim or the state, for that matter, for their piece of the pie. And to me, the only way out of the sectarian, feudal mindset we have is that. So that explains why I'm a bit of a libertarian.
So just maybe two more points. There's an appetite among some people in protests, and we heard these voices earlier, for the army to sweep away this government and rule the country. Do you guys have any appetite for that kind of transition?
No, definitely not.
So there's no no desperation for a sort of an army interference on that scale.
Yeah, no, I don't really support that.
I don't support it.
Omar, do you have any? And I mean it not in the not necessarily the way we know it in its brutal form, not an army sweeping up people and arresting everyone and putting the city and country on lockdown. I'm talking about the kind of moments that we've had in the past where the army does step in. Now, they, in effect, repeatedly step in on a different scale. The presidency has been an army commander for about 20 years now. Do you see the need for someone like Fuad Shihab, an army general who's ushered in, quote unquote, to save the republic? And then you have years of institutions that are built. It's an oppressive state, but it's in a way built what we live with today and what we hold on to. Is there any appetite for that kind of interference today? And I'm asking because I want to maybe unpack why you hear these voices increasing, and they've been increasing the last few days.
No, definitely. I think because they know they're stronger with the army, maybe, but I don't support that at all. I mean, these people, the army is here because people needed extra jobs, and that's why we're losing money, because they're just giving out jobs for, the army and whatever.
So you put Lebanese before army in its real meaning. This is the Lebanese army.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a neutral, independent sort of.
Yeah, I don't support that at all.
State force inevitably leads to violence. I mean, even in its most even in cases where it actually was for the economic benefit, like in the case of Pinochet in Chile, it came at a huge human cost. And in the case of Lebanon, where power is derived from sort of society and not from the state, when you introduce a third actor or a second actor, i.e. the government wants to start acting, or the state wants to start acting like its own sort of power center, that'll inevitably lead to clashes with the other non-state actors in the country, and that'll inevitably lead to violence. So it'll come at a huge, it'll inevitably come with violence, regardless, even in its best case scenario. But in the case of Lebanon, it'll be competing with other centers of power, be they independence-driven Druze militiamen, or very independent hardy warriors, or Shia militiamen in the south, or Sunnis who don't like it, or you'll probably end up with a fracturing of the army. There is no third party. In fact, the only army that could have done it was a non-Lebanese army, whether it be the Syrians, or be the French, or be the Palestinians, or be the Israelis. And each time, it ended up causing more destruction, more violence, and I think it'll just be a disaster.
And now the last point. I mean, we're all well aware of all the problems that this country goes with, and we know that it's not about WhatsApp. Yeah. But that definitely triggered what's happening right now. And we're all using WhatsApp all the time, and I just want maybe to unpack this a bit. What was your initial reaction when you saw that this was going to be potentially taxed? And I think it was 20 cents a day, and it was $6 a month for cellular data, not for Wi-Fi. That could increase over time with Wi-Fi. So it's really almost like a well thought out tax plan for a very unpopular tax. What was your initial reaction when you saw that?
Honestly, I thought the people were going to come down and protest. I know it's not because of WhatsApp, but I felt that people are going to do that. I don't know why. I mean, $6, an extra $6 to what we pay already is not a big deal, honestly. But it's not a big deal for everyone, at least. But I don't know. I felt that people were going to be really bothered by this, not just because of WhatsApp, but because in the same week we had people's homes being burnt down, and the politicians couldn't stop the fires, and just things happened, and then oh, by the way, we're going to start taxing you for talking to your friends. That was just the last
So the timing, that announcement was probably the worst timing possible.
Definitely, yeah.
And you expected the protests to happen? Or you expected something to happen?
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Tim? Because we talked about this privately.
Yeah.
The power of this movement and social media.
Yeah.
Did you feel that this was going to turn out the way it did?
I didn't feel it was gonna be this big demonstrations. I mean, $6, yes, for probably for someone who's worked in management consulting or in banking, it's you wouldn't like it, but you'll pay that amount. But for families that make $10 a day, it's a proper percentage of their monthly income. So probably this decision triggered that reaction because you're surrounded by garbage. The garbage mismanagement is inducing cancer. People are unhappy, but it's not affecting them directly. There is no one thing that they can address with anger. But that was one decision that they just refused, and people did not want it.
So in a sense, it's an application we're truly united behind. Free messaging, free audio.
No, but I think like every single individual was personally affected by this decision. That's why it triggered all of this.
My initial reaction was, yeah, not so bad. They actually lowered data prices a couple months ago. Actually, my cell phone bill used to be $160 a month. Now it's $130 because just I think a month ago or two, they lowered data prices by 30%. I actually was called by the cell phone company to tell me, guess what? We're reducing prices, and would you like to, would you like to upgrade your data plan because they reduced prices across the board? So my initial reaction was, why are they going to tax WhatsApp when they reduced data prices just a couple months ago? But despite that logical way of thinking, the next feeling in my head was, what? I mean, it is the peak of hubris to try and introduce a tax that, yes, affects every single person here in this country on something that everyone can relate to, exactly at a time when we're seeing not only no results from government, we're seeing like the country burn down because of them. Like things are actually going back. It seemed whatever the adjective would be for hubris, it seemed sort of just completely random and ad hoc. Why the hell are they doing that? Then my reaction was because kind of given up on the system reforming itself without the things happening I mentioned earlier, just VPN and do the Lebanese thing and get around the problem. Just another stupid policy that you get around.
It seems like even though the prices went down a bit over the last few years, cell phone prices went down. The fact that it is so high compared to what people earn. And I think that was almost like a respite, that you don't have to pay for phone calls in this country because we all send each other voice notes. I don't know of any other country that uses voice notes as much as we do, or audio WhatsApp. Let's say the tax was $6 on something less emotional, or less relevant. Let's say it was on, I don't know, more Shisha. Yeah, do you think it would have conjured up the same reaction? Tobacco tax or something that is also universally shared in this country? Or is it really because it's touching on something that we need, that we use day to day, we can't afford to call on regular lines? I don't remember the last time I actually made a phone call in Lebanon without worrying about my budget, because that's, I think, on everyone's mind. Could you have seen another $6 at something else and it would have just sort of been, okay, we accept that?
It would have made people angry, but not this angry, I think. Yeah, WhatsApp is something we do need, and not a lot of people can pay $6 a month. Some people live on $4 a day, less than $4 a day.
Of course, we also need taxes to have a budget that is not in the red all the time. What would the tax be that would say, okay, fine, we'll tolerate this?
Boats.
So cars. So it's the upper bracket tax on the yeah.
Because if you can't afford it, you can live without a car.
Yeah.
but obviously people are relying so much on WhatsApp, and I think everyone knows that. You can't just argue that WhatsApp's just an application.
Yeah.
It has become essential to everyone.
Yeah.
But then that's proper policy making and taxation. It's just to have people with stronger spend power pay taxes accordingly and not just apply a flat tax on everyone, whether your bill is $160 or $500 or $40, really managing it the whole month to pay the minimum, just slap a $6 tax on everyone. It's just, it's dumb.
Yeah.
I would argue, we have actually a very this might be a bit unpopular to say, but we have a very favorable tax code in Lebanon. I mean, first of all, we don't have a proper income tax. We have all kinds of random taxes. We have a wage tax. We don't have a capital gains tax. We have a territorial system whereby, you can get around paying taxes if you just stash your money abroad. We have an interest rate tax on bank deposits, but we don't have a capital gains tax when you sell property. Not to mention all of the other legal... inheritance tax, yeah, it's supposedly really high, but then it's Swiss cheese. There are tons of ways to get over it, to get through it. There are... For the wealthy in Lebanon, there's tons of ways to really pay nothing, really pay very little in any kind of tax. So we don't have a proper income tax. I don't think it's so much about the taxes as much as it's about the lack of seeing any tangible result. I don't think people have an issue paying, whether it's $6 on WhatsApp or Shisha, or it's a wealthy person paying, 20% on their interest taxes, their tax on their interest, or what it is today, 10%, used to be 5%, then it was 7.5%. I don't think people would have a problem with having a proper income tax. The issue is not about that. The issue is we're paying this money. Right? Even our VAT is relatively low. It's like 10%. In many countries, it's even more. I think in New York, it goes up to, sales tax goes up to like 17%. But at least there, things get done. There's a functioning government. So I think the issue here was not, it was just they're taxing people more and more, and given what Rina just said about the burning of the mountain, it's like $450,000 in maintenance on those 3 helicopters that were gifted to us would have saved millions of dollars of damages and lives and homes. It's like, what the hell are you doing with this money? And we know all the corruption. So I think that it's the combination, it's the frustration really, and that was just the thing that sparked it.
In less than 24 hours, our prime minister's either going to announce a proper reform package, which may not happen, he may also resign. We don't know what's happening right now. But there's speculation that it's one of 2 choices. Either a big announcement for change or resignation. Let's go with the former. Let's say there's a reform package. What do you expect in that kind of package to calm people down and maybe even dissuade them from protesting? I have trouble seeing that package being acceptable no matter what happens. But what do you expect in that package? Is it what Omar is suggesting, which is a different set of taxes that are being, put here and there? Is it what you go after, the cars and the boats? Is it not WhatsApp, but maybe other burdensome taxes on the poor? What do you see? I know it's unfair to put yourself inside Hadidi's mind.
Well, we also discussed this earlier today. One of the immediate consequences to all those demonstrations is for the people to know that they have a voice now, but also for the politicians to realize that the people has a voice. So the next time there's a cabinet meeting, people will be sitting and with personal agendas and everything to have some laws decided. And one of the considerations of those politicians would be not having people go back to the streets. So that's one thing. But I think there's a communication problem. There's sect. It's like a buzzword.
Sect.
Sad. Cedar. Sad.
Come waiting for Godot.
And it's a buzzword. Probably 90% of the people don't know what it's really about.
Yeah.
They just need to explain to people that those reforms are in place to make SAD happen.
Just quickly, you're referring
Get-
to the billions of dollars.
Exactly, the 11 billion we're expecting from France and other countries in return for some reforms. So they just need to explain where this money is going to and what the immediate impact to people would be as a result of those 11 million. That will appease people a little bit.
What do you think, if it's a reform package, what do you think, what do you anticipate? Is it just going to be said the billions of dollars are unlocked?
The paper is mainly for SAD, I think. All the reforms, they're urgent because SAD has a deadline and it needs to happen now.
So the taxes that have been proposed will be shelved for the time being. In other words, it will be a focus on that.
Probably. But I think just people need to understand what's the immediate consequence on them because at this point nobody's explaining it to them properly. It's just a buzzword.
What about you?
It's a really hard question. I don't know what they're gonna come up with, but I'm really curious because when Saad al-Hariri gave a speech, he said, I've been trying to do this and that, but I couldn't because people are disagreeing. So I'm just curious what he had in mind and how he was planning to save the country. So if he had a good plan, I'm all for it. I don't want him to leave. That's not the point. We want change. And the only way...
So you'd rather see the reform as opposed to the resignation on his part?
Yeah, I mean, the resignation is not the smartest thing. People are just fed up. That's why they're saying, leave, we hate you. If they can come up with something, which I think it's really hard to come up with something in 72 hours, sure, I'm willing to try. I mean...
Cameron, just quickly going back, would you prefer resignation or reform in this moment?
Let's place a scenario where they explain how those reforms will lead to lowering the deficit for Electricité du Liban. Like if they explain such a thing, I would be in favor of the reform.
So you'd prefer reform first, then resignation if necessary?
If the reform is a proper plan, it's not just to...
What about you, Omar? What do you expect and what do you prefer?
I expect a sensible reform package because I think every stakeholder in government and in society stands to lose a lot if the house or if all the mansions come crashing down. So I expect that in the last 72 hours that they've been really putting their heads together, finally doing their job and putting together a sensible reform package for their own sakes. I hope that as well. Now, I hope, I mean, ideally, I do want to give credence to or give a chance for the non-sectarian, all this, this feel-good individualism that we see to take root. So I do hope that maybe, in the next few years, we're going to have parliamentary elections, maybe a sensible plan and then a commitment to introduce new candidates. Maybe Nabih Birri says, I'm not going to run for parliament head next term, or Aoun says, I'm out, and, we're going to have some, Eli Khouri, random guy, come in as president. Maybe, and the same thing goes for Saad. Maybe. But the first step, I think, should be economic reform, and I think they'll put together a plan that makes sense. But I want to go back to something Kamil said that is, I think, super important. There has been such a poor effort, actually non-existent effort, in communicating the problems and the problems the country's facing and the solutions to solving those problems over the last 15 years, actually. We've actually been in recession for about 10 years, really since 2005. Every time there's been an outburst of public participation, it's always been, Hezbollah is the problem. Syrian war is the problem. Syrians in Lebanon are the problem. Sanctions America are the problem. And it's so obviously false, sort of just blaming one particular thing. That is so obviously false that I think that led to the jadedness of and the lack of public participation that we've seen that really showed itself in the last elections. That's why people didn't go out to vote, because they just said, in fact, up until a few days ago, when you ask someone, "Shو رأيك بالسياسة?" what do you think of politics here? Most people say, "I don't care. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the club." What we've seen today in the last 3 days is an outburst of public participation, because all of a sudden they have this agency that maybe we can make a change. And I do hope that is sort of really capitalized on in the reforms, the reform package that is sort of hopefully going to be presented tomorrow, and in the months coming forward, because people need to know where the problem is. There's an incredible, for the last 6 months, everyone's become a monetary policy expert in the country because everyone started worried about the lira. And that was maybe the 20% that had a stake. The other 80% were, I don't care, country, whatever, I'm going out, where's the party, where's the club, I'm going to Mykonos for the summer. Now, people are actually going out and caring. I hope that our leaders communicate more. I hope people respond, whether it's hopefully not through the street, hopefully through elections, by holding their leaders to account. And I think if anything, that could be the real tangible benefit that we get from this outburst of public participation. I hope everyone becomes more engaged in policymaking and the reforms that are necessary to move forward.
I think that's a good place to leave this on a hopeful note. Yeah. Thank you, Omar, Dina, Kamil. Once again, I appreciate it. And let's leave it there. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Keep providing commentary as things develop. Again, apologies for the background noise. This episode was done hastily, but I hope it was worth hearing, especially for those that are not living in Lebanon. I hope the diversity of views in these 2 sessions shows that more or less the people that are going to the street, despite their differences, are united on change. And there is a deep, fundamental desire at the moment for change in this country. We'll see how it plays out. Until next time, I'm Ronnie Shatlah, and this is the Beirut Banyan.